January 9th, 2018, 11:20 at night. The Jardim Horizonte residential complex sat under a humid São Paulo sky, 14 floors of concrete and glass housing 110 families who expected safety, order, and answers. Mauro Silva, building manager for 8 months, stared at his phone where a notification blinked once, twice, then disappeared without leaving a trace. The backup generator had run for 18 minutes during a blackout in Tower B, but the alert system claimed it sent 4 messages while his phone received only 1. The timestamps made no sense. 2 notifications arrived after power had already been restored. Mauro was 41, trained as an electrical technician before moving into property management. He had taken this job because it promised stability, routine, clear protocols, but routine demanded trust in systems, and tonight the systems were lying. The notification app, installed in 2015 and neglected since, had been sending duplicate alerts, delayed warnings, phantom messages that appeared to no one or everyone at once. The building council had postponed maintenance after a budget dispute with the IT contractor. Now Mauro sat in the cramped manager's office, fluorescent light buzzing overhead, trying to reconcile 4 different timestamps for the same power failure. His phone buzzed, unknown number. He answered to heavy breathing, then silence, then a click. 3rd time this week. Probably a wrong number. Probably nothing. He set the phone down and opened the access log on his desktop. The RFID reader in the underground garage showed incomplete entries, codes that started but never finished, as if someone had touched their card to the sensor and pulled away too fast, or as if the reader itself was dying, spitting errors into a database that had no way to flag them as false. The portero on duty, Claudio, appeared in the doorway. "Mauro, you need to see this." His voice carried that particular flatness that meant trouble without urgency. They walked together to the security desk where 6 monitors displayed grainy feeds from 32 analog cameras. Claudio pointed to camera 7, the one covering the lower garage where residents stored furniture and holiday decorations. The timestamp read 11:17 p.m. A figure moved through frame, shoulders hunched, carrying something bulky. The image pixelated, froze for 2 seconds, then resumed with the figure gone. "Rewind it," Mauro said. His mouth tasted metallic, the way it did before migraines. Claudio dragged the DVR playback backward. The figure appeared again, reversed through the frame, disappeared. Forward again. There. A person, definitely a person, but the contrast was wrong. The face a blur of shadow, the body a suggestion. Man, woman, resident, intruder. Impossible to tell. Mauro checked the RFID log. At 11:17, no entry. At 11:11, an incomplete code. At 11:23, another partial read. 6 minutes of gap, 6 minutes of maybe, 6 minutes that could mean nothing or everything. He felt the familiar pressure building behind his eyes, the weight of a decision that protocol demanded and experience resisted. Call the syndico now. Wake up the building council president. Trigger another investigation that might reveal another false alarm. Or wait, verify. Avoid adding his name to the list of managers who cried wolf. "I'm going down there," Mauro said. "Watch the monitors. Anyone comes or goes, write it down by hand. Don't trust the log." Claudio nodded, already pulling out a notepad. The radio clipped to Mauro's belt crackled once, a burst of static that resolved into nothing. The building's VHF system was older than the cameras, prone to interference from the routers on every floor. He tested it anyway. "Claudio, copy?" "Copy, Mauro." The elevator descended in silence. Mauro counted 14 seconds from ground floor to basement level B2, where the garage met the mechanical rooms. His footsteps echoed on concrete. The air smelled of old engine oil and damp cardboard, that particular basement smell that never quite disappeared no matter how much ventilation you installed. Overhead, fluorescent tubes cast uneven light, some flickering from age, others dead entirely, leaving pockets of shadow between parked cars. He moved toward the storage area, past rows of numbered metal cages where residents kept their excess. Everything looked normal. Locked doors, undisturbed dust, the faint hum of the building's guts working beneath conscious notice. He reached the service doors, the ones that connected the garage to the mechanical corridor where pumps and breakers lived. He pulled on the first door. Locked. Good. Second door. The handle turned freely. The bolt retracted. The door swung open with a whisper of hinges. Mauro's pulse kicked up. This door should be locked. Always. Last service entry logged 10 days ago. Maintenance crew replacing a pressure valve. He stepped into the corridor, narrow and warm, lined with pipes that dripped condensation onto the floor. The dripping had a rhythm, a patient ticking that marked time in a space without windows. His flashlight beam caught labels, valve numbers, electrical warnings in faded red stencil. Nothing out of place, nothing obviously wrong. But the door had been unlocked, and that was wrong enough. He returned to the garage, closed the service door, made a mental note. Not proof of intrusion. Could be oversight. Could be the maintenance crew forgetting procedure. Could be 100 innocent explanations. But added to the incomplete RFID codes, the phantom figure on camera 7, the inconsistent power alerts. It was another piece in a puzzle that had no picture on the box. He keyed the radio. "Claudio, I'm coming up. Door 2 in the mechanical corridor was unlocked." Static answered him. He tried again. Nothing. The radio was dead, or the signal couldn't reach through 2 levels of concrete. Mauro walked back to the elevator, pressed the button, waited. The car arrived empty. He rode up, counting the seconds again. 14 up, same as 14 down. Time held consistent even when systems failed. In the security office, Claudio looked pale. "I got a notification," he said, holding up his phone. "Activity in the B2 pump room. But you were just there." Mauro checked his own phone. No notification. The app had sent an alert to Claudio, but not to him, despite his phone being registered as primary contact for mechanical alerts. He opened the app's log. 67 users had received the alert at 1:17 a.m., but it was only 12:40 now. The timestamp was from the future, 40 minutes ahead, logged as if it had already happened. The app was generating alerts that didn't correspond to real events, or it was reporting real events with impossible timing. "Did anything actually happen in the pump room?" Claudio asked. His voice had thinned out, uncertainty creeping in around the edges. Mauro thought about the unlocked door, the dripping pipes, the silence that had felt too complete. He picked up the desk phone and called the Syndico's mobile. It rang 6 times before the answering service kicked in. He left a message, clinical and brief. "Mauro here. Inconsistencies with the notification system and some access anomalies. No immediate danger, but wanted to flag it. We'll continue monitoring." He hung up. Claudio was still watching him, waiting for a decision that would shape the next few hours. Mauro could escalate, call an emergency assembly, wake up the entire building, demand the IT contractor be pulled from bed to fix whatever was breaking. Or he could hold, maintain watch, gather more data. The manager's job was risk assessment, but risk was a moving target when your instruments lied. "We keep watching," Mauro said. "I'll check the pump room one more time, physically verify everything. You stay here, log any movement, any notification, any anomaly. Write down the exact time from your watch, not from the system." He tapped the clock on the wall, an old analog model with a second hand that swept smooth and certain. "That's our reference now. Real time, not server time." Claudio nodded. Mauro headed back to the elevator. This time the descent felt longer, though his count reached 14 at exactly the same moment the doors opened. Psychological time, stretching under stress, making familiar distances strange. He crossed the garage quickly, pushed through the maintenance corridor, reached the pump room door. Locked. He used his master key, stepped inside. The room was tight, hot, filled with the heavy throb of water moving through pipes under pressure. 3 industrial pumps lined the back wall, their motors cycling in sequence, a rhythm you could feel in your chest. Mauro checked the control panel. Power draw looked normal. Temperature normal. Pressure normal. Everything exactly as it should be. He stood there for a full minute, letting his eyes adjust, scanning for anything displaced, disturbed, wrong. Nothing. But as he turned to leave, he noticed the power meter on the main circuit. The needle shivered, dropped a fraction, rose again. A micro variation, barely visible, the kind of thing you'd miss unless you were staring right at it. He noted the time. 12:51 a.m. by his watch. If the pump room alert had been real, it had been this, a tiny fluctuation that shouldn't register as an event but somehow had. Or maybe it hadn't, and the alert was purely phantom, the app misfiring into the void. He returned to the security office at 1:04 a.m. Claudio had filled half a page with the notes. 3 more phantom notifications, he said. All future timestamps. None of them came to me this time, but residents called. They're getting scared. Mauro felt the situation slipping, momentum building towards something he couldn't control. Fear was contagious, especially in a building where people lived stacked on top of each other, sharing walls and ceilings and the same fragile infrastructure. If the alerts kept coming, if the timestamps kept lying, panic would spread faster than any real threat. He made a decision. Lock down the service areas. Use the maintenance padlocks on both doors to the mechanical corridor, physical barriers. If anyone wants access, they have to go through us first. What do I tell residents who call? Tell them we're investigating a technical fault with the notification system. Tell them there's no immediate danger. Tell them we're taking precautions. The words tasted like placeholders, temporary structures built to hold back rising water. But they were the only words he had. At 2:30 a.m., the situation deteriorated. 5 residents received an alert. Unauthorized access, Tower B, basement level. Mauro's phone stayed silent. Claudio's phone stayed silent. But the building's internal chat group exploded with messages, theories, fears. Someone posted video of a hallway door swinging open on its own. Someone else claimed to hear footsteps in the stairwell. The night was hot, windows open, sounds carrying up through the building's hollow core in ways that daylight muted. Then the server crashed. The notification app went dark, the resident portal stopped loading, the chat group froze mid-message. Mauro tried to reboot the router. No connection. The internet service provider's modem showed a solid red light, no signal, no data. No way to reach the outside world except through phone calls that went to voicemail because it was 3 in the morning and the help desk was closed until business hours. The building was isolated now, cut off from its own communication network, reduced to radios that barely worked and a DVR that recorded in grainy monochrome. Mauro felt the walls closing in, not physically, but informationally. Every system he depended on to assess reality was either failing or lying, and the gap between what was happening and what he could verify was widening with every passing minute. He made another decision. I'm doing a physical sweep of Tower B, ground floor to 14th, checking every technical closet, every service door, every access point. You stay here. If anyone shows up, building resident or not, you call me immediately. He handed Claudio a second radio, a spare unit that might work better than the one on his belt. Test this every 10 minutes. If I don't answer, come find me. The sweep took 90 minutes. Mauro climbed stairs because the elevator felt like a trap, a metal box that could stop between floors and leave him suspended, unreachable. Each floor was identical, 4 apartments arranged around a central hallway, a service closet at the east end, a fire door at the west. He checked every lock, tested every door, looked for signs of tampering. Nothing. Everything sealed, secured, ordinary. Residents slept behind closed doors or watched television with the volume low, blue light flickering under their doorways. The building breathed its normal breath, oblivious or indifferent to the crisis unfolding in its nervous system. By 4:30 a.m., Mauro was back in the security office, exhausted and no wiser. Claudio had logged 15 more irregularities, doors slamming on floors where no one had entered or left. Shadows on camera feeds that resolved into nothing when reviewed frame by frame. A single elevator car that descended to B2 without being called and returned to the lobby empty. Each event had a potential mundane explanation. Air pressure from open windows, compression artifacts in old video, a faulty proximity sensor in the elevator shaft. But collectively they felt orchestrated, intentional, as if the building itself had developed agency and malice. At 6:05 a.m., the maintenance crew arrived as scheduled, 2 technicians in company uniforms carrying toolkits and diagnostic equipment. Mauro briefed them quickly, showing the logs, the video, the cascade of failures. They set to work with professional detachment, testing sensors, checking breaker panels, synchronizing the DVR timestamp with an online atomic clock. The sun rose over the city, light pouring through the lobby windows, and with daylight came a subtle shift in atmosphere. The strange night receded, became a set of technical problems to be solved rather than a presence to be feared. The full diagnostic took 3 hours. The technicians found corrupted log files on the notification server, evidence of automatic restarts between 11 p.m. and 4 a.m. that no one had authorized or observed. The DVR, once calibrated, showed that the figure in the garage was a resident moving furniture. The timestamp discrepancy, a result of the DVR clock drifting 6 minutes slow over the past 8 months. The pump room micro-variation came from a failing relay that triggered false starts, engaging the motor for fractions of a second before cutting out. The unlocked door had been left that way a week ago by the previous maintenance crew. Nothing sinister, nothing supernatural. A constellation of small failures that accumulated into something that felt like threat, that moved like intention, that pressed against the boundary between malfunction and malevolence until the boundary blurred. But the damage was done. The Syndico called an emergency council meeting. Residents demanded answers, accountability, change. The IT contractor was fired within a week. The security system was upgraded to IP cameras with cloud backup. The RFID readers were replaced. A new protocol was established. Mandatory incident reports every shift, daily system checks, monthly simulations of failure scenarios. The cost was significant, both financial and social. Trust, once compromised, required more than technical fixes to restore. Mauro kept his job, but received a formal reprimand. The council noted his hesitation, his failure to escalate immediately, his prioritization of avoiding false alarms over ensuring absolute safety. He understood their position even as he disagreed with their conclusion. He had been managing risk in real time with incomplete information, which was the only way risk could be managed. Perfect knowledge came later, in reports and analyses and calm rooms where no one felt the pressure of a decision made at midnight with broken tools. The building settled into its new routines. The upgraded systems worked smoothly. No phantom notifications, no timestamp errors, no mysteries in the basement. But one question remained unanswered. The log for that final alert, the one sent to only 5 residents at 3:40 a.m., could not be fully reconstructed. The entry existed in fragments, pieces of data that didn't connect, that suggested something had triggered the alert but left no trace of what. The maintenance team called it a corrupted database entry. The IT contractor called it a ghost in the machine. Mauro called it unresolved. He thought about those 72 hours often, the way they had felt infinite while happening and compressed in memory. He thought about the moment he had stood in the pump room listening to water move through pipes, the way the silence had felt occupied. He thought about the distinction between real threats and perceived threats, and how that distinction only existed in hindsight. In the moment, fear was fear, danger was danger, and the systems you trusted to tell the difference were only as reliable as their worst component. The building continued. Lives continued. The rhythm of elevators and plumbing and electrical current resumed its normal pulse. But the archived exception remained, a footnote in the maintenance log, a reminder that for 3 nights the building had reacted to signals that might have meant nothing, or might have meant something no one wanted to name. The gap between those possibilities was where Mauro lived now, in the space between protocol and instinct, between what the instruments reported and what the body knew. And in that gap, late at night, when the fluorescent lights buzzed and the radios crackled static, he sometimes felt the weight of that unopened question pressing down, asking to be answered, refusing to be ignored.